Uh, I see Councillor Driscoll. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I see Councillor Driscoll. I see Councillor Rudd, Councillor Hogan, Councillor Green, Potam, Councillor Allen. I see it right here. Welcome. Is there any other councillor that I haven't seen here? I see President. I think that's about it. Welcome to all of you. First of all, let's get going. We have few rules to this committee meeting today. First of all, to any of our community members who are here listening, this is strictly a council meeting. There will be no public comments today. Maybe at a later time in a different day, but not today. Step this hearing is our lawyer, Ronnie. Welcome. Will give us an overview of his analysis, and then we will follow with questions from each counselor. Each counselor will have a maximum of 2 questions first, and then give other counselors a chance to ask questions as well. Usually our public safety meeting are 1 hour, and we would listen to that 1 hour again as possible. They will be directed to Operation Council at this time or the chief of the police. If anyone is able to direct those questions, they will not be there to answer. And I see that we have CRB here with us. Welcome, Raynette, and Chairman Peter McCarthy is here as well. I see Ryan there as well, and many others. Ronnie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Go ahead. Just give us an overview of your analysis, and then we'll give a chance to the counselors.
Okay. Yes. So you all asked me to look into the viability of enacting what has become known as the right to know legislation. Specifically, I was asked to take a look at whether or not the version of the ordinances or potential ordinances proposed by Spark would be viable to be passed. Specifically, in doing so, you asked me to take a look at the opinion drafted by the Corporation Council, as well as the response letter that was drafted by Legal Services of Central New York. I did do so, and I jump right to my conclusion that I believe that the council would be well within its authority to enact the more controversial oversight or more controversial day-to-day operations aspects of this legislation, either by claiming concurrent powers that are inherent in the structure of municipal governments here in the state of New York, or by using inherent police powers to protect the health, welfare, and safety of its citizens.
Okay.
A more detailed explanation than that?
Yeah, go a little bit deeper, Ronnie.
Ronnie, at what point do we not have the conversation in public about the legal strategy? Because I personally am like, okay, we can do it. You told us we could do it. You told us different ways we could do it. Now we need to tell you to go write it, and then we need to do it. Otherwise, I don't know what happens next. So what's the line of explanation out loud right now versus maybe even a question and answer session for counselors offline?
Well, I mean, I think that, wading into the specific legal strategies behind that could possibly entail a waiver of attorney-client privilege. I didn't specifically look into that issue as it pertains to this hearing. However, I will do my best to answer any questions without waiving any such privilege.
If I can add to Ronnie and Mr. White's point, that's a point of concern there that he mentioned. We have to be very careful about waiving the right of attorney-client privilege. We read his opinion. I think he did an excellent job. I think some others think he did as well. I think, as much as we can have at least some dialogue about maybe, I don't even know if it's safe for us to talk about what's next before actually taking an action or having further dialogue with our attorney. But it's always a delicate situation when you're dealing with an opinion from your attorney. So I think we have to be careful in that respect. But the short of it is, we were clear from what was interpreted to us about what we are able to do with the right to know legislation and how we should possibly proceed.
In that regards, I guess with you, Ronnie, please, as we get into this conversation, just let us know if we are going too far in terms of protecting that privilege and privacy. So, counselors, anyone with questions? Add something, Ronnie. Did you want to say something?
No, not at this time. I'm open to questions.
Okay. Now, counselors, anyone?
Well, Ronnie, I guess that the other counselors have expressed this concern, so I'm not exactly sure where any of those lines are myself, but I would ask if there is any clarification that wouldn't get us into troubled waters, clarifying the distinction between state mandate and state law and what aspects kind of some of the clarification on some of the lines about how it interacts with state law and everything that's going on, to kind of clear up some of those areas and maybe give us a more layman's view of or description of some of your take on how this would interact with state law.
Sure. I mean, I can certainly attempt to start there. So I don't believe that there will be any direct conflict with any state laws in this. I believe, again, it's squarely in the municipality's ability to enact this legislation. And I get that. I come to that conclusion based on more of a theoretical analysis of the powers of state government, right? The powers of state government come from the people who then form the New York State Constitution. The New York Constitution then lodges that power in the legislature, right? And then the legislature, through passing the Second-Class Cities Act, right, and then to the municipal home rule, various municipal home rule laws, then delegated some of their authority to the municipalities, right? And then from there, the municipalities, specifically in this instance, delved some of the rulemaking authority to the public safety commissioner, or in this case, the chief of police, right? So that's, I think, how we got to the situation of where the chief of police was making these day-to-day decisions. However, it's my belief that at every stage of that delegation, the previous granting party still retains some sort of some authority to then to either legislate or make directives in that same field, right? So that just because the state legislature passed on some of this power to municipalities, it would be completely inane to say that the state legislature doesn't have any ability then to make some of its own rules concerning how municipalities operate.
Gotcha. And was the term public safety commissioner that is written in the charter, is that interchangeable with chief of police? Is that clarified that?
I don't know that situation is settled per se. I do note that most of the second-class city legislation does speak to a public safety commissioner, And I believe it's just by practice and operation that Syracuse operates without one. I did note that through a review of the charter, there does seem to be a provision for a public safety commissioner, but I'm not sure exactly how that ended up not being followed anymore, or if it's necessarily required. I don't believe, I don't know that it's necessarily required for there to be an actual public safety commissioner.
It is not. It could either be a sworn officer, or who's the police chief, or a citizen who is acting as a chief or commissioner.
Certainly.
Are there any counselors who don't think that? I think that having read it, it's clear we have a path to move forward, and we should develop our strategy with our lawyer, and we should develop the law, have our lawyer develop the version of the law, and then we should introduce it and move it forward. So is there anyone who, because I feel like that's what the memo answers. So are there questions on that? Is there anyone who's like, oh, I don't think, that doesn't understand that? I don't know how we talk about this. Is where I think anyone who had questions on that, it's hard to talk about it in public. So it's sort of, but to the extent we have, I personally am ready to ask Ronnie to draft the legislation using the strategy that he outlined. And then I think we move forward from there. It moves on to the agenda, and we debate the law that our lawyer drafts for us in public. But at this point, the discussion about, from my perspective, it's a let's go. But does anybody who's not at that point that has questions, and then I'm not sure, to the extent you have questions, you may have to have them answered offline, but maybe it's okay for you to ask them now.
I'm okay with that, Rudd, as far as us moving it forward with Ronnie.
Yeah, Counselor, I was going to say the same thing as Counselor Allen. I read all 15 pages of Mr. White's brief, and I feel really comfortable with it. So I feel like we're on solid ground to move forward.
I agree with Counselor Green and Counselor Allen, but I thought it was like a 75 pages. Maybe it seemed 75 pages. So I'm perfectly okay with what. Thank you, Counselor White.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's pretty obvious that there's certainly a majority that is in agreement that we should move forward. I don't know that it's everybody, but it's certainly a majority.
Yeah.
I'd echo the other counselors. I feel comfortable with if our council feels that we're on firm ground, and as the brief indicates, well, at least we're within our rights to move forward. I'd be comfortable with that, and I'd be happy with him begin drafting and having those further conversations.
Well, since the nature of the legislation at its current state is not allowing us to go beyond where we want to go, I think I do agree with everybody. Let's move it forward to a point where we can actually go beyond what we have in front of us. So I agree. Let's do that. Mr. White, City Clerk, I think we will have more discussion, but at the point, I think it's a go.
Okay.
So just to be clear, to give Ron, let's make sure our lawyer has the timetable, that we don't want to set him up for failure. So, Mr. White, what time, in order to draft the legislation, we're not about to, we have our current meeting coming up next week. We're definitely not doing that. The agenda's set. So will you have, I guess if 2 weeks is 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks would give you time to get it on the next agenda. Do you think you'll be able to draft the legislation? What timeline do you need? We're on board to do it.
Well,
let's Mark and him figure that out. I think that's the goal. The goal here, Councilor Rudd, I said my conversation with the city clerk is to get it September 14th voting agenda, whatever it takes to get that thing. Mr. White is comfortable, and I think that's our goal basically.
Mr. White can speak to this, but we already talked about the time constraints of getting the legislation in time and having it ready for your standing committee meeting on Thursday, September 3rd, and it's my understanding that he believes if you give him direction today, he can do that. Is that correct, Mr. White?
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
All right.
I don't believe
If any further questions or comment for this, for the council that haven't yet contributed anything yet and they want to say something. Anything else?
Chairman Majoke, I know you want this to last an hour, but I don't think it's going to happen, buddy.
No, but tell me if this can last for 5 minutes and the substance in it, let's get out of here. That's my thing. Yeah. Anybody else? If not, details will be settled by us and the city and Mr. White, and we will cross our fingers for September 3rd that we have this legislation in front of us for September 14th. If not, nothing else, Madam President, anything? All right, if not, I think this is it. Thank you so much for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Right.